Welcome back. This is Sandy with Sandy's Organized Chaos, and today we're going to be doing this glow glitter Peekaboo Tumbler. As always, I'll make sure to put everything that I used today into the description box below in case you want to shop those items, and make sure you stick around to the end so you can see that glitter glow. So let's wake up, prep these tumblers, and slay all day. Let's do this. I'm starting out on a 22-ounce slim that I purchased through the Stainless Depot, but of course you can use any type of tumbler you already have on hand to complete this project. Now the glitters that I'm going to be using, this first one here, this one's called Daisy. That is a glow glitter that is now available at my glitter shop, socglitters.com. And the second one here is an SOC sparkle dust, or it's like an additive. That's pretty much what it is. But I'm using a dusty pink. I thought about silver, which I do use here at the end, which I'll show you guys. But I'm just going to take a little bit of this dusty pink and mix it right into my Daisy glow glitter, just to kind of give it just a little bit more sparkle. And depending on your application, a little bit of those additives goes a very long way. It's a very high sparkle glitter. Now I'm going to be using my preferred method to apply my glitters today. I like to use the epoxy method. I think it makes the chunkier glitters lay flat. That's totally me. But if you prefer using your Mod Podge or whatever you like to use, please go ahead and do it that way. Now I'm going to be applying probably between 5 to 10 mLs of epoxy on my tumbler. This really helps those glitters be able to shift around and lay completely flat. So now after I have my epoxy onto my tumbler, I'm going to go ahead and take those glitters that we had mixed up, and I'm just going to completely coat my tumbler in those glitters. Now, once I have my tumbler fully coated there we go, I'm going to go ahead and pat it down really well. I'm going to roll it up in my parchment paper. I just want to make sure that it's completely flat for when I go to apply my 2 coats of epoxy over top of this raw glitter. So like I mentioned, I'm going to let this portion cure. I use my fast set, so I'm going to give it about 2 hours. I'm going to apply a coat of epoxy over top of my raw glitter. I'm going to see if I need to apply another coat. I'm going to sand it if need be, apply another coat, because we want to make sure this next step is completely smooth for when we go to do our peekaboo. All right, here it is the next day. It is a very smooth surface for our peekaboo here. You don't want any little lumps or anything like that. Now, the stars that I'm using, I got right off of my Cricut Design space. It's completely up to you on what kind of stars you like to use. I made mine about 1 inch in height, and I did 2 different kinds of stars. I just looked up stars right in my design space, and I'm sure Etsy has some too, or I'm sure you probably can find these little star decals pretty much anywhere. But I'm just going to really load this up very well. Then we're going to take it outside and we're going to give it a coating of paint. Once I have the amount of stars I would like on my tumbler, I'm going to go ahead and take it outside, and I'm going to be using this Evening Navy. That's what it's called. There we go, by Rustoleum. And I'm just going to give it a good coating of this. Now, if you can't find the spray paint or you can't go outside and spray paint, it's okay to just paint on your colors if need be. It is completely up to you guys. I know it's getting harder to find spray paints here and there, so whatever you guys need to do to be able to do your peekaboos is completely up to you. But if you are using spray paint, I just like to do 2 thin coats. This just ensures that there won't be any drips or anything like that once it's done. So I'm going to go ahead and let this dry completely, and then we're going to move on to the fun part. And by the fun part, I mean removing all the vinyl we already put on. You guys know how much fun this is. It's a lot of fun, right? The biggest tip I can give for this is just take your time. You don't want to accidentally nick your paint or anything like that, but if you do accidentally nick your paint, it's okay to come back through with like a Q-tip and a little bit of acetone and just kind of smudge your paint around, and it'll fill in your little scratches that you might have accidentally made. Trust me, I've done it before. It's not a big deal. It'll be just fine. All right, now it's ready for another coat of epoxy over top of our paint job that we just did here. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to spray it down really good with my 2x Ultra semi-gloss here. That just ensures that our epoxy won't wick away off of these paints. So the whole look that I'm going for is like a night sky type thing. So I really wanted just a little bit more sparkle. So I'm going to be adding the SOC Sparkle Dust Silver right into my epoxy. Now I added a lot into this. I did not need to add this much. See, I actually needed like half of that into my epoxy. but that's perfectly fine. Where I just went with it, and I actually kind of liked it in the end after I did all of my little finishing details. So, again, happy little accidents. You never know, right? But I really wanted it to look like, all the stars in the sky, like multiple points of light. And I really think this gave it that good effect that I was looking for. So I'm just going to mix this up really good. Then I'm going to apply it to my tumbler. Then I'm going to let that cure overnight, and we'll be ready to add our finishing details to it. Okay, here it is the next morning, and we are ready to kind of finish it up here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clean up my room really well. I'm going to clean out any paint that might have gotten on the inside of my tumbler as well. I just like to do this process as I go. It just makes it so much more easier in the end. So I'm going to go ahead and do that process really quick. Now, the quote that I'm going to be using, I actually got right off of my Cricut Design space. I just looked up stars and I found this quote, "Shine like the stars," and I thought it went really well with everything that I have going on. But I'm sure you could probably find something on Etsy, or I'm sure you could probably come up with something completely on your own to make it however you would like. But wherever your imagination takes you with this, let it take you there. There is no right or wrong when it comes to making art. So, however you feel it needs to look is completely how it should look. Now, I really wanted to add some cloud texture to the top and bottom of this. So I actually have some Arteza paints here. This is like a translucent pink paint. And I also have just some basic white paint that you can get at Walmart or anything like that. But this paint is so beautiful once you apply it to the tumbler. It has like a real pink shine to it. And I just thought it went really well with the glitters that I have underneath here. So when I did the bottom, I accidentally forgot to press record, but that's okay. I noticed, and luckily I didn't get started on the top yet. So here we are. So this little sponge I'm using is just from the dollar store, which is actually $1.25 now. I'm just saying, what's up with that? But I'm just going to take my little makeup sponge, and I'm going to take that translucent pink, or it's called glowing pink from Arteza, and I'm actually going to start making the base of what my clouds are going to be. So I'm going to start with that first. And as you can see, I'm just doing pouncing motions. I don't want to do kind of sweeping. I just want to pounce this paint around just to really blend it and make more of like billowy effects. And another thing you're going to notice is I'm not fully filling in my clouds, because when you look up at clouds, they're not fully filled in. You can kind of see through portions of it, and there's just all kinds of textures and motions going on with the clouds. So that's all you want to do, is you just want to kind of pounce around in circles until you kind of get the effect that you want. And I knew I kind of wanted it closed in around the fonts in the front and just kind of fade around into the back. So that's all you want to do. And again, we're still working with just our base paints, because this is going to be the underneath, and then we're going to come through with our white and highlight areas to really give it much more of that cloud look. But I'm just going to continue to kind of layer this around. It dries relatively quick, so I'm just going to be taking it and just continuing to layer it, and you'll really start to see where you want those highlights to be as you continue to fade it and build it on top of one another. And once you get that bottom layer all done, you're going to let that dry a little bit. Now we're going to move on to the white highlighting. I'm going to go ahead and take another sponge right out of my pack. I just want kind of a cleaner sponge so it doesn't kind of mix too much together. And I only want a very, very, very small amount of that white. You don't want too much. If you put too much, it'll accidentally fill in too much, and we don't want that. So we're just going to take a very small amount of that white, and we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to add or tap along where we just want to highlight our clouds. So I'm kind of picturing the quote as almost like maybe the moon, and so it's shining up. And so I'm going to be doing the highlights on the bottom portion of my clouds on the top, and then the top portion of my clouds on the bottom. So it's almost like the quote is shining and making it kind of do it that way. But again, I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to keep fading everything together. If I need to, I'm going to come through with my bottom colors once more and kind of fade it just a little bit more, just until you get it the way that you would like to have it. And always remember that if you accidentally mess up, if you don't like your clouds for whatever reason, although we are our worst critics, okay, what you might think doesn't look good, I bet you everybody else will think looks good. I'm just saying, all right? We are our own worst critics. But if you don't like it, all you have to do is take some rubbing alcohol, spritz it onto a cloth, and all this should wipe right off. You might need to use a little bit of elbow grease to kind of lift it up, but it will come off because I did have that happen to me as well. And if you're having problems with everything kind of fading together while the paint is wet, just take your chip brush. I just have this little 2-inch chip brush that I like to use for everything. And you're going to do the same thing that you were doing with your sponge. You're just going to pounce that around and just really fade those colors together. It's as simple as that. And I know you guys got this. All right, once I am done fussing around with all of this, I'm gonna go ahead and let these paints dry up really good. If you feel like you need to, go ahead and give it another spritz of your clear coat and then give it its last 2 finishing coats of epoxy, and she is good to go. Whether you take this design and duplicate it as is, or you take it and let it inspire you to create something that is completely your own, I hope that you guys had a lot of fun watching this tutorial today. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys next time.